All right, welcome everyone to Own Your Business. This is an interview today that I'm pretty excited about. I've known Michael for quite a while. I'm going to bring him on in a minute, and but first I want to give a little bit of a background. Not a background. I'm just going to tell you about his bio because his bio is pretty darn impressive. He's the CEO of Utah Live Bands, and his bands have played for clients like Microsoft, eBay, Dillards, BP, Toyota, and one that kind of surprised me, the Kentucky Derby. And he's performed, his bands have performed with or for Robert Redford, the Beachboys, Rooney Mara. So they have been around and they've certainly gained some notoriety. They've gained in Utah 21 Best of State awards. So they're just doing really well there in Utah. Michael himself plays the saxophone, the bass, the drums, the keys, clarinet, and the flute. So he's also he teaches at Brigham Young University and Utah Valley University, and he's also authored a textbook on jazz improvisation. So definitely done a lot in his career so far. He and his wife also have 4 kids, with the youngest being 1.5 years old. So the guy is doing a lot, and so I'm excited to have him on, and he might already be on. Yeah, we've had you on the whole time, Michael. So welcome.
Hi, Jared. Good to be with you.
Thanks for coming on. Before we get into, obviously, my show is for executives, entrepreneurs, business owners who are trying to get to that next level. They're trying to grow their business to a state where they're able to they had when they very first started out. But maybe they're not getting the traction that they wanted, or maybe they're not reaching the goals and milestones. So I think you can give a lot of insight there. But I'm wondering if you'll share just first a little bit about what you and your team at Utah Live Bands actually do.
Yeah. So I have kind of a lot of people ask me what I do for a living, and it's kind of hard to answer because I actually have quite a few different things that I do. So you've kind of explained Utah Live Bands. That's my production company. We do a lot of events all over the world and mostly in Utah and the United States, but we do a lot of corporate events, weddings, and conventions and stuff like that. We provide the entertainment for it, production.
Okay.
And then I've got a couple other businesses. I've got one called Empire Casino Parties, which we provide casino parties for corporate, like Christmas parties, stuff like that, when people just want like faux casino parties. And then I've got a company called Dinosaur Events, where we provide these big, giant, 15-foot realistic dinosaurs for like TV shows and stuff like that. And we've done some cool stuff with 21st Century Fox and Nickelodeon. And
I was gonna say, because I think I saw you on the Workaholics, or what? Okay, your dinosaurs were on Workaholics, and I feel like you were doing the dinosaur thing before anybody else was really doing the dinosaur thing. Is that right?
Yeah. The way that started, my brother basically was like, "Hey, this guy's selling this dinosaur thing. You want to buy it?" And I was like, "Sure." And then it just like went from there. So we've been on like 21st Century Fox, Nickelodeon. The Workaholics thing was on Comedy Central. We've been on. There's a show called Last Man on Earth. We were on that. Yep. And there's a show called Walk the Prank. And anyway, and then we've done a lot of commercials and corporate events and stuff. So anyway, there's that dinosaur thing. And then I'm a business broker, so I've sold lots of businesses for people. And so kind of a unique background I've seen a lot of businesses, and I've like owned a lot of businesses. And so that's kind of my background.
And which would you say? Obviously you're doing a lot of things. They're all doing well. When you think about kind of your baby or your passion project, which of those is it, or are all of them kind of fitting that mold?
Well, the one you described, Utah Live Bands, is what's making the most money, and is kind of the main thing that I do. It's the main thing I spend my time with.
Not the dinosaur costumes.
Are you there? A phone call came in. Okay.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Utah Live Bands is what I spent the most time with.
Okay.
And one other thing, we just started a website called Slap Laughter, which we do ad revenue and share memes and just funny things. So that's slaplaughter.com.
Slap laughter. So how did you get into a little bit of everything? And maybe take us back to maybe where the passion started. Like, what were the first early stages of your business, and kind of where were you headed? What was your vision for yourself back then before you were doing all of this?
Well, I've never really been somebody who has like known what they wanted to do when they grow up. You know, like some people, they just know from when they're in junior high or whatever, they want to be a doctor, they want to do this. And I like still don't know what I want to do. You know, so like, I've never had like a plan really, but what I feel like I'm pretty good at is I'm an opportunist. So if an opportunity comes up that I feel like I would be, you know, successful in, or I would do well in, I've like not been hesitant to just jump on, even if the timing wasn't right or whatever. So like, so I started Utah Live Bands when I was in college just to make a little extra money. I never had planned on doing music for a living, although I was a music major in college, but I was just doing that just because, I don't know, I liked music. That's just what I was doing. I didn't really have a whole lot of plans. And then, yeah, I just started that, and that started growing every year. And then we started doing bigger events. And like, you know, Utah Live Bands was started as a little jazz combo. We played a little background music for weddings here and there, just making a little extra money. Then I connected myself with some bands that were doing some big things, and, you know, it's growing every year. And then I got into the business broker thing, and I got my brother managing Utah Live Bands, and I had always intended on that being a side thing, but that's just really kind of grown. And then the other stuff, I don't know, it's just my personality that if I think of an idea, I just like want to do it. I just kind of do it, even if, you know, a lot of people tell me, oh, this is a distraction, or you shouldn't be doing this. I've just successfully been able to start things and leverage my time so that I can get kind of other people running them, and, you know, and it's quite a lot on my plate, but I've gotten to the point where I can do it pretty successfully without having to spend too much actual time on each thing, you know, because I've got people that I trust that are kind of running things.
I definitely want to get into that, because I think something, you know, when I'm working with entrepreneurs and executives and business owners, the time is always a big thing. How much time do I devote to something? What do I say yes to? What do I say no to? Yeah, but I want to go back to where you're like taking advantage of opportunities, because that's something that people maybe shy away from sometimes, or it doesn't fit perfectly, or maybe there's a little bit of fear involved in like, well, what if it doesn't work out? So talk to us about how you work through some of that when those opportunities do come along.
Well, I've had a lot of things not work out. So, so like I started a little vending machine business, and that just was completely flopped. And then like I've started little websites that just like, you know, we put some time and money into it, and it was just like so stupid. Nobody ever went to it, and we just like shut it down. So I've had my share of failures too. But what I think you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about time, though, because time, you know, if you're wanting to leverage yourself and try to make as much money as you can and be as successful as you can and do as much as you can, time is your biggest enemy, or it can be your like most valuable friend. So putting things off your plate that you don't actually have to do is very, very difficult for people. And it was very difficult for me. That was one of my weaknesses. I just didn't trust anybody to do things that I felt like I could do. I felt like I could sell better than anybody. I could run the business better than anybody. And once I actually trusted other people and said, all right, why don't you go ahead and do this? I realized that other people could do it as well or better than I can. I just didn't like trust them to do it. So I think one thing that I've done well is I've taken a weakness of mine, which was not being able to let go of anything, and turn it into a strength where I feel quite comfortable now saying, hey, why don't you handle all this for me, and I'll follow up with you like later, but I'm not going to worry about it because I trust you. And then I have learned that people are better than at things than I am, you know, and so I could trust them to do it, and they'll do it a little differently maybe, but that is the key to, if you have a lot you want to accomplish, I believe that is the key, is managing your time, because you can't do everything. And if you can get things off your plate, then you can spend the time that you have doing things that are actually going to be beneficial and grow the business, as opposed to, you know, just wheels.
Well, you can be like the visionary. You can have the ideas and you can execute them. And then as people gain trust around you, you can hand it off and say, go execute on this. What I really liked about what you said is that, you want to trust people, but hopefully what all of the entrepreneurs watching this or listening to this don't do is just go give everything away without that second part that you talked about, which is the follow-up. Here, I'm going to give you this, and then I'm going to follow up with it. Doesn't matter how much you trust them, if it's a lot or a little, follow-up should always be that component in your businesses where you at least know what's going on and how, how progress is happening or what obstacles or challenges people are facing, so that you can help them get through that.
Yeah, and you got to be able to provide them support like that. So that's another one of my weaknesses. I once hired this guy, and I just kind of did my thing, pushed everything off on him, and I didn't follow up very well with him. And he ended up quitting because he was like, I feel like you're just having me do all this stuff, and like you never meet with me, And I learned a lesson from that.
Yeah,
he was right. Like I just kind of ditched him, and anyway, so I got to be careful about that. But I try to follow up with people, but there is a delicate balance. But you can still trust people to do things, and you follow up and say, "How is this going? Oh, that's great. Let's do this. Let's navigate things a little bit differently, or however you want to direct them." But you do have to be able to trust them to be able to do it, and they might end up doing it better than you. So
I want to tap into your business brokering for a second, because now you've seen lots of businesses who are trying to sell, trying to get out of their business. Maybe they've come to you and said, "Hey, I want to sell this," and you're looking at it and you're like, it's not sellable. Like, it's not in a position where someone will buy it. So how much of that ability or inability to trust and have other people do things, how much of that shows up when a business comes to you and says, "I want to try and sell this"?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I will say that the businesses that are the most sellable and the most desirable for a buyer are the ones where the buyers feel the most comfortable jumping into the business, knowing that the business will continue on without the owner. So that's usually the buyer's biggest fear, is that when the owner leaves, all the business is going to leave, all the relationships are going to leave. So so actually people who are able to do that, who are able to get their business to the point where it's sellable, are the ones that end up getting the most for their business or have the highest chance of selling. I would say that's one of the top things, top concerns for buyers, and rightfully so. I mean, if you were buying a business and you're realizing, oh my gosh, all these relationships are just the owner, once he leaves, I mean, you're going to be terrified to spend all that money and just have it go down the toilet. So my business used to be called Michael Tobian Ensembles and Bands, and I ended up switching it to Utah Live Bands because I just felt like it was more sellable. I wanted to get my name off of it. And I've tried, not that I plan on selling my business anytime soon.
Sure.
But, I could sell my business because I've got people, the relationships aren't all with me. I mean, there are some that are with me, but, somebody could take it over and it would be turnkey like that. I think it's essential if you want to sell your business to get it to the point where it can do that.
Well, I love that, because that just should be a motivator, not only because when your claws are all locked into your business, then you're probably not enjoying the rest of your life the way that you had hoped to. But then, to your point, it's not positioning the business for that sale, if that's your objective, if that's your goal.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even if you don't want to sell the business, like we talked about before, see, if I used to do all the bookkeeping myself. I used to do this myself. I used to do this myself. And I used to spend all this time doing stuff that I didn't actually have to do. And when a phone call would come in from like an important client, it would be like, man, I can't take this phone call right now. I got all this stuff to do. But now that I've been able to successfully get a lot off my plate, a phone call comes in from a really important client. I can take an hour and talk with them because that's important, because it's all about networking, and that's going to grow my business. And I know that things are still going to get done. The bookkeeping is going to get done. The accounts payable is going to get done. My sales guys are still out selling. Anyway, so even if you don't want to sell your business, I have found that the more I take off my plate, the more my business grows. And incidentally, like, the more goes on my plate, but which is like counterintuitive, but which is good or bad depending on what you want. I don't know if you've ever read The 4-Hour Work Week.
We talked about it last time, yeah. So Tim Ferriss, do you want to give just a summary of what that is and how that maybe impacted your business at the time that you came across it?
Yeah, I mean, you can read the book, and he's quite extreme. So I'm not like he's like, get everything off your plate and like go and live in like Japan and do like taekwondo.
Yeah.
But it was quite inspiring, because it was quite inspiring in terms of getting things off your plate and trusting other people to do things for you. again, I think the book's extreme, and like his goals are different than mine. Like I like to be involved in the businesses, and I mean, like, what am I going to do? Like, if I like just sit around all day if I'm not doing anything? But yeah,
Sure.
anyway, that book is quite inspiring in that regard, and I took pieces of it and took it with a grain of salt. But sounds like
Well, and I think when we talked about it before we got on the show today, business owners and people in general, they have to recognize that doing that, outsourcing whatever it is that you do have on your plate, is great as long as you're using that time, at least in the beginning, to move your most important things forward.
right.
Versus I'm just going to have everybody else doing everything, and then I'm going to sit around and do nothing. Like that's going to be a recipe for disaster in the long term aspect of it.
Yeah.
What about those people? So let's say that we've got people listening and they're saying, well, that's great. I would love to be able to have somebody to pass things off to. What about those people? What advice would you have for them that don't really have anybody to hand things off to, or they can't afford to outsource or bring on employees? What's your guidance, or what are your thoughts there?
Well, that's also a good question. So or not you, but people may not be in a position to be able to hire anybody. Like if you're barely scraping by and you're just running your business and you're just trying to get it off the ground, hiring somebody may not be in the cards for you. I mean, I've been there. I've been, where I've been working 60 to 80 hours a week and I'm doing everything, pardon me, and like I couldn't hire anybody. So I've been there. But if you can get to the point where you can take a little bit of a risk, hire somebody, even if, I mean, the first time I hired somebody, it was like 10 hours a week. It's just like, I'm going to pay you 10 hours a week to handle this kind of stuff. And I was surprised at how much, people work from 8 to 5, but they don't realize how much they're actually working from 8 to 5. They might put in like a good 3 hours of work from 8 to 5 in lots of cases.
That's probably being generous.
Yeah. Like they're talking to buddies, they're going to lunch, they're, browsing Facebook and whatever. So like if you hire somebody to work 10 hours a week, you'd be surprised at how much somebody can accomplish because they're sitting there actually probably working 10 hours a week. So anyway, yeah, somebody might not be in a position to do that. And then they have to get their business to the point where it's making a little extra cash that they can do that. But I'll tell you, if you can do that and if you can get stuff off your plate and if you use that time to do more effective things, I've never really been in a situation where it's not just grown my business.
Yeah.
So, it's scary to do, to spend money. It's the same thing with advertising or anything. It's like it's scary to spend that money, to spend those resources. But if you do, generally, it's going to be something that's successful. And if it's not, you'll learn from the failure. But I've always found that I've made more money when I've taken stuff off my plate.
Yeah. Well, and again, two things that I love. Learn from the failure, learn from the errors, the mistakes, look at them as opportunities of, okay, what can I do differently next time? The other thing is the selection of what you're outsourcing. So you're not going to give away maybe something that you're very good at for somebody else to go do, but so that you can stay in and learn how to do the books or learn all the accounting practices, outsource that part of the business where you can go out and sell more. And so maybe, from a just sheer numbers perspective, you think, well, I can't afford it, but maybe it could if you could offload something that allows you then to go out and sell more or get bigger partnerships or, find a new, niche to be able to advertise to or market to. So I think it is really about how you look at it and how you work towards it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the point of it. Yeah. Is like, getting stuff off your plate so you can do something else. Now you can get stuff off your plate and then just go golfing. And if that's what you want to do, great. But you will make less money doing that because you'll be spending money. But if you get stuff off your plate and then spend the time, yeah, like you said, selling, let's say you're a good sales guy and you're the guy who's getting all the, selling more, building relationships, take at least just taking the phone call that, you ought to talk to this important client, whatever it might be, that's a better allocation of your time. Oh, and one other thing you said is, I think it's important though that you know how to do all the tasks in your business, even if you end up getting somebody else to do them, because that person might leave and you might have to do it, or you might have to train them how to do it, and you just want to know everything about your business. So, So for example, like as I've started businesses, like when I started my casino party business, I got the tables made, I did everything, I figured everything out. I said I'm going to do the parties this way. And I had a lot of experience in the event industry anyway, so I had kind of a head start there. And for like a year, like even though I didn't really have a whole lot of time to do it. I did the events. I was dealing. Oh, I'm shaking the table. I was dealing the cards at these pretend casino games. I learned how to deal all the games, craps, blackjack, all poker, all this stuff. I was collecting money. I was running the business. I was doing the sales. And once I had a good system in place, I called my sister-in-law who lived in Denver, and I said, "Hey, why don't you come out to Utah and run this business for me? I'll give you a percentage of the profits and all this stuff." And she did that. Now she's doing everything. And once a month, like, I might take an hour with her and say, "How are things going, and how much do I owe you," or whatever. But like, but
Probably a good idea.
You do got to follow up. But she has now. I've said, "This is how I do it. Why don't you do it?" And now she's put in even better processes in place, and she's running it. And all I got to do is follow up with it and everything. So, but I can do everything in that business. I've been in the dinosaurs that I talked to you about. In fact, that workaholics thing was me. Like, so when you're watching the show, it's like me in that costume. So anyway, so like, I've done the grunt work. I've done this. I know how to do the bookkeeping. I know how to set up my stuff. I know how to do the events. I know how to. Anyway, it's important that you know how to do everything, and then you can choose not to do it.
And so does that depend on the stage of your business? So I think that's probably easier when you're newer into business. You're just getting the business set up. But to your point, you brought your sister-in-law in, she comes in, she runs it, she adds to the processes. Are you then following up with her and learning, okay, here's this new aspect of it, and then you're like, hey, next event, I'm going to go out and do that? Or is it more of now you're aware of how she's evolved it or the evolution of it, and you're good with it?
Well, I think that's up to your individual style. I personally, maybe I should be more involved, but I just am like, okay, do it and let me know how it's going. Like, I probably should be more like going to an event every once in a while, saying, hey, let's change things up. But I just kind of trust her to do it. I just got a lot going on, so. Anyway, she does a good job, and that's the way I handle that. But I do think it's important, that you examine. My dad's run some companies for people, and he always talks about how, he ran this like cattle fencing business, and he was the president of the company, but he would go in and he'd weld stuff with the guys, and so that he could know what's going on, and so if changes need to be made, he could make educated decisions about it. So I would suggest that you do that. That's one of my weaknesses, so I'm not a great example of that. I sometimes kind of like let think, oh, good, this ball's rolling, I'll just forget about it.
But I think you're also talking about setting up a business in a way that it becomes, for lack of a better word, predictable, right? You've got the processes in place that proves the model is bringing in revenue, and you know that it works, and so then you can hand it off. Mm-hmm. And it might evolve, but that core business needs to be able to stay the same, to where those same levers are getting pulled at the right cadence and the right frequency. If it's evolved from there, that's fine. But again, that kind of baseline trust factor, the foundation of what the business is, versus somebody who's like, I'm still trying to figure it out. Well, I'm going to have this person manage this process that's not even a process yet. Or I'm going to have this person do this, and I don't really even know what the right formula is there. So that could be tricky as well.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to pay attention because things can get out of hand, and like, I've often been like, hey, why aren't we charging enough for this or whatever? So you can't just let things go on their own. I mean, you can, but it's better if you are paying attention to it, like you said.
So obviously you've got a couple of different businesses. How do you prioritize your time? How would you define balance in your life? You've got multiple businesses. You've got a wife who probably likes to see you occasionally. You've got 4 kids who probably want to know who dad is. So how do you first define balance, and then how do you prioritize your time?
Well, actually, that was very difficult for me for many years. And like, it had affected my relationship with my wife and my kids and just my mental health and whatever, like for several years. So that is like a valid thing to think about. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I've learned is like business is not everything. Like, lately I've really been focusing on exercise and all this kind of stuff and spending time with my family. So, but I have probably just because I've been running my businesses for so long and just have good processes in place and good people to run them. I'm surprised at nowadays how little time I do actually spend on it. I used to spend just like all day, all night on it. But as I've been able to relinquish these things, get the stuff off my plate, I actually find myself a little bit surprised, like, well, I don't really have anything to do today. Now, there's always something to do. Like there's a whole list of things I should be doing, right? There's stuff you should be doing and stuff that are like fires that you got to put out. For me, it used to be like all day long I was putting out fires, answering phone calls, doing this, putting out these fires. And now it's like, oh, I've got like nothing to do. Of course, I've got all this follow-up with all these clients and all this stuff that I could be doing. But but if I need to if I want to take my kids to the park or whatever, it's like, yeah, I can do that. So,
do you think that as you look back at when you're building up the business, what you know now, do you think that would have had a significant impact back then? Or did you have to have that time where you were grinding away? You were maybe absent from the family. Because I think sometimes there's this idea, it's got to give away this season of our life where we're building the business. In my experience, that comes out more like for the family, right? We're doing this for the family.
Yeah.
Some people get back to the family and some people don't, quite honestly. So would that have made an impact back then if you had trusted more, outsourced more? How would that have changed maybe the building of your business?
I think it would have changed it for the better. But my personality is that I'm a bit of a workaholic and that I'm, tend to be kind of ambitious and whatever. So I couldn't help myself, and I just was like, you asked my wife, and I would just get a bit obsessed with trying to grow something, trying to start something new. And she'd be like, why are you always trying to start something new, And it ends up being a good thing, but yeah, I overworked myself, and I do think that people need to learn to work really, really hard. Like they need to learn that work ethic or that skill set or whatever. So you should be able to work really hard, and I know how to work really hard. Right now in my life, I've and when I say right now, I mean the past couple of years, like I've took some reflection and said, I think I'm spending like all my time on this and like neglecting the family and this and that. So I purposefully stepped back, took some stuff off my plate. And what I found is that it's helped grow my business. But that's something everybody's got to ask themselves.
Yeah.
What's important to them in life? For me, growing a business, being successful, making money, growing my talents, whatever, is important. But it's just one of the things that are important. Exercise, getting in shape, that's important. My family life, that's important. Spending time with friends is important. And I neglected it for many years. And in a way, it helped kind of grow my business and helped me. But yeah, I think the short answer to your question is that if I think I were to go back, I would do things a little differently, and I would take more off my plate. I would do things a little bit smarter instead of just spinning my wheels and working hard, and it would have not negatively affected other aspects of my life as much.
Well, I think that takes a lot of confidence and courage. I've got a lot of respect for people that are willing and able to make that pivot, because again, like I have had clients in the past who they're later on in life and they're now trying to figure out, how do I get my health back? How do I, get my relationship back with my spouse or my kids who are now in college and hardly ever around anyways? How do I get that stuff back? And so I think being able to recognize what's important as early as possible and then build structures around it that allows the most important things to be taken care of. Yeah, your business might not grow as big as maybe or as fast as you want it, but it will still grow. And if you're dedicated and disciplined and making the right sacrifices, then it will grow, and you'll get to where hopefully you need to go without sacrificing everything else. So I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty common tale that people look back at their life and they go, oh, I spent all my time on this. And, anyway, you just have to decide what you want in life. But I must say that, you don't have to be a workaholic to be successful. You just have to be smart. And again, we keep going back to this theme, but surrounding yourself by really good people that you trust, that are on board, and paying them fairly, and everything I found that when I spend a little less time, my business has not slowed down. I've just been a little smarter about it. So
efficiency and effectiveness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Love that. And what I really want to know, Michael, is I want to go back to that moment when you went to your wife and you were like, okay, there's these dinosaur costumes, and it's gonna be huge. How did you sell that idea to your wife?
Well, there's been many times in our relationship where my wife rolled her eyes, and I think she just got to the point where she's just like, "Whatever, you just do your thing." I mean, and honestly, we would fight about it early in our marriage. Is like, I have these ambitions, and she's, that's completely stupid and whatever. And like some of them worked out. She's like, "All right, I guess I trust you." But yeah, so she doesn't. I don't think she cares anymore because I've started some crazy stuff, but a lot of it worked out, and so she's. But yeah, I mean, it is something that I guess your wife has to be on board with.
Ideally, right?
They're very expensive too. So.
What was the point in your career where you felt like, okay, this could be my business. This could be, the way that we make money. And maybe it was that way all along. But as you're building, first the Michael Tobian ensemble piece, and you see the potential, at what point do you kind of see the scales tip?
Yeah, it's a good question because I like I said, I still kind of feel like it's like some people say, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to be a doctor, whatever. That's what they want to do. But for me, I still feel like I'm like, I don't know, like, after the busy season with our like events and stuff, like every year I'm like, to my wife, I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to sell it, do something else. And she's like, no, you don't, And then like, we had a slower season and I'm like, oh no, I'm this is good. I was just, exhausted. But so I still just feel like I don't even know, like, it's like what I want to do. But when we started paying bills is like when I felt like, oh, this is something that's actually making us money. So, but it's funny. I never really planned on doing what I'm doing. I just keep doing it because it's paying bills. And I think I'm just different than a lot of people in that regard. So.
But you're passionate about it. I mean, I think one thing that I know from what I know about you is, especially when it comes to music, I mean, it's something that you're passionate about and enjoy and love doing. So do you ever see yourself doing something outside of that? I mean, do you see, entertainment, music, would you just totally pivot and do something completely different, or what would that look like?
I would if the opportunity came along. I never planned on doing music for a living. I always thought it would kind of spoil it because it is my hobby. And, I'm like, doing your hobby for a living, it becomes a job instead of something you enjoy. And a lot of people choose not to pursue music for that reason.
Yeah.
Taking a step back and not killing myself has helped with that, but I do enjoy it. But yeah, like there's a couple things that I do that are not music related whatsoever. The business broker thing isn't, and I enjoy that. And this new website we started is doing really well. It's kind of a Facebook ad revenue type of thing, and that has nothing to do with music. So, like I said, if the opportunity came along, I would not hesitate to not do something music related. And in fact, sometimes I get sick of making money doing what I want to do for fun. But it's doing well, and there's a lot of people that I hire that rely on it. So I would never just ditch it.
Yeah.
If I were to do something else, I'd sell it and try to make sure it went into the hands of somebody who was really going to take care of everybody. Because there's a lot of people, there becomes a lot of pressure when you start to, when people start to rely on the income that you're giving them for, to pay their bills.
Sure.
Because, if my business were to fail, there'd be a lot of people that would be hurting. So,
yeah,
a lot of musicians, my staff.
Yeah, because how many bands are part of Utah Live Bands?
Well, so we own some bands, and when I say own, I mean like I've started, or me and my manager have started. My brother's my manager, and we organize it, put it together, do some promotional materials, and start booking it out. And again, so just so people know, this is not like original bands that are playing original music at bars and stuff. Like this is like for events that are playing dance music and entertaining the crowd. So it's kind of a niche type of thing. But we'll start a couple new bands every year. So we've got 50 bands that we either own, or a lot of times there's a band that's really successful, but they're just looking for somebody to handle their booking for them and get them more and higher paying gigs and whatever. So there are bands that we don't actually own, but we have an exclusive booking arrangement. So we just do all their booking. If somebody says to them, hey, why don't you come out to our party? they say, well, talk to our agent. So we're their agent. And then there's bands that we manage. And anyway, so, we probably have like 50 bands that are exclusive to us. And then we also, sometimes clients say, hey, I'm looking for, a Grateful Dead tribute band or so, like something very specific that we don't have.
Yeah.
We'll go out and find it and book it for them. So, but we got a lot of bands that we've started, and and then it's pretty easy for us to start. We have a good process and stuff. So
love that. Yeah, and I mean, obviously, you're doing some really good things with all of the experience that you have in your own business, with the business brokerage that you run. What do you feel like entrepreneurs are getting stuck with? And we've already talked a little bit about trust. We've talked a little bit about time management. Like, what are some things that you've seen that you feel like really hang up entrepreneurs who are trying to build a business, trying to get things going?
Well, I think a lot of them are risk averse.
Yeah.
So I've had the opportunity to see a lot of businesses as people have tried to sell their business. I've looked through a lot of people's financials. I've talked to them a lot about their business. A lot of times people want to sell because their business isn't doing very well, and sometimes people want to sell because their business is rocking and they were retiring or whatever. So I think a lot.
What's the split there between people that are rocking it and people that are just trying to escape?
Well, I don't really know like the average business, but people who are wanting to sell their business, it's usually people who have a good business, but they're just wanting, they're either wanting to change directions or they have something better, or they're retiring, or maybe they're getting divorced and they got to just sell because they don't want to keep running it together. And sometimes people call in a panic and like, oh, my business is tanking. Can you sell it? And I'm like, well, who's going to want to buy your business? It's kind of a heartbreaking.
Here's a business. It was doing great last week, and this week.
Yeah, it's like this kind of a heartbreaking discussion to have. But can you see me, by the way? Like my head. Okay. Yep. So but I would say some of the barriers that I find that people have a hard time is, one, they're really risk averse. They don't want to, like, I've known people who they don't want to spend the money they might need to spend in order to get a particular account or do some advertising they know, or whatever, or hire an employee to take stuff off their plate. They want to do it all, that is something. Another thing is some people don't want to work very hard.
Yeah.
And that's challenging.
Yeah.
And so you got to be able to work hard. Some people just don't have a lot of skill sets to run their own business. Some people need to get a salary. They just need the salary. They feel comfortable with the salary. They get panicked if they don't have guaranteed income and stuff. And if you're a results-oriented sales type person, you may be excited to not have a salary because you say, hey, the sky's the limit as far as, killing what I own. But I would say those are some things that are the biggest barriers to entry I've seen, or barriers to somebody doing well with their businesses. They're just too scared.
And what types of characteristics have you seen in the businesses that run well? When entrepreneurs are really doing it well, what are the things that stand out that maybe even surprise you as you're looking over their financials, as you're talking with them about their processes? What are the things that stand out that really, impress you?
Well, I've been inspired by some of the business owners that I've met that they just do it stuff. They just do it. Like, they have an idea and they just do it. It's like there's never going to be a good time to do anything. It's like, oh, I'll do that. Now's not great timing for me. It's never going to be great timing. Unless you have a disaster going on in your life or something, which does happen, and that may not be great timing. But, let's do this particular thing to grow. Let's buy this company. Let's hire this person. Whatever the decision is, just do it, So the people that I've been inspired by, like, there's one particular business that I sold that was quite inspiring to me, because these guys were selling because they started another business and that other business was just going crazy. And this business, they're like, we're just not focusing on it. Let's sell it. And, buyers would look at the business and they'd say, they'd ask a question and they'd be like, I don't really know. Just talk to our office manager. They run it. Like, we're off doing it. It's like, they just are like,
just going.
Yeah. They just do it. They get an idea and they just implement it. Those types of people always got a lot going on.
Yeah. Well, I love,
execution. What's that?
Yeah, it boils down to execution. And I often, when I'm working with clients, I'm always telling them, like, listen, we like the planner you, but we also like the doer you. And we have to find a way to like shrink the planner and let the doer grow a little bit more, because man, we can plan ourselves to death. We can look at all of the, well, when this is right and that's right. But man, at the end of the day, you've got to get out and execute. You've got to get out and just do what needs to be done to be able to get results, to move yourself to that next level. And you've got to be willing to sacrifice as well. So I think execution, I'm not totally surprised to hear that that's, something that stands out.
Yeah, and like, so the planning thing's important. Like, but that, yeah, so that is. But you're right. Some people plan and plan and plan, and they just are so scared that they're going to lose money or it's not going to work out that they just don't do it. And that I'm a little bit the opposite of that, to a fault, a little bit. I don't do as much planning as I should. If I'm thinking of starting a new business, I really ought to do a business plan and research the market and do all this stuff, and then implement it according to my business plan. That's not really my style, and it should be my style. I would be more successful if it was. But I'm just like, oh my gosh, what would be awesome is if I started this, and I just like buy all the stuff, and then I just like throw up some ads and like do whatever, and then like everybody tells me, why are you doing this and whatever, and sometimes it fails and sometimes it's awesome, and then I get sick of it and I hire somebody else to run it. But I will say though, there's a weakness of mine that I'm not great at the planning and strategizing. Like I just kind of like, so I do things like I am that way, but I probably am that way to a fault. So you need to strike a good balance. But I will say I've had some good successes because of the fact that I'm just like, this is a great idea, and I just like go and buy the dinosaurs, or I buy this, or I'm gonna anyway and jump in full with both feet, because I think usually when people aren't successful, it's because they don't do that. So I think the doing it is even more important than the planning stages. Yeah. You'll figure out the planning as you go. You might make mistakes. See, I make a lot of mistakes along the way, and so I ought to plan better.
But I don't know that the planning always equates to less mistakes, honestly. Because I mean, if you think about where even your business is now, look at all the iterations and pivots that you've made as a result of doing and learning and then changing. And I think about my own business and how many iterations I've gone through, and just the name and what's the products that I offer. And now I feel like I'm finally settling on, okay, this is what I do. This is where I'm good. And I don't think I could have ever planned any of that, right? I maybe could have done market research. I maybe could have done the business plan, but kind of like you, I'm thinking, I just want to go, and I'll learn along the way and pivot and iterate, because I see people all the time where they've got this great idea and they've got it in this nice, neat little package, and they're just petrified to put it out there because they think, one, somebody else is going to steal it, and two, they're afraid to even see if it will work. So, but what they don't know is that once you put it out there, you immediately start getting feedback, and then you're probably going to change it anyways. You're probably going to get feedback, and your product's going to change. You're going to pivot, and you're going to have to iterate.
It will, for sure. And like, it's important not to just have these expectations that you stick to. So it's like, I'm totally in a different place than I ever thought I would be when I started, whatever business. But sometimes people have these expectations. I want to do this, and it's going to be like this, and it's going to be like this. And then they realize, oh shoot, my inventory or whatever is going to cost me way more, or, roadblocks come up. And it's like, you need to plan the way you want it to be, but you also need to be able to pivot, and you can't get married to your expectations of what it's going to be like. So I'm with you.
To another Michael, but definitely really appreciate people connect with you, learn more about you, hire you. What's a good channel for that?
Well, you can email me at mike@utahlivebands.com. I'm happy to answer any questions. You can look me up on Facebook. You can go to my website, utahlivebands.com. My casino party business is empire.casinoparties.com. My dinosaur one is dinosaurevents.com.
We're going to link that one. The other one's not so, but the dinosaur, yes.
The business brokerage that I work with is alpinebusinessbrokers.com. And anyway, you can get a hold of me if you have any questions. I'm happy to, talk to anybody. If anybody needs entertainment at their event or whatever. But I really appreciate you having me on. It was a good discussion.
Hey, happy to have you. Definitely will have you on again. Thanks so much for all of your time and your insight.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
And soon. Thanks, Michael.
Okay, talk to you later.
All right.